What is up, YouTube? Welcome to the first Gauntlet meta snapshot. This video is being recorded with a little bit less than 40 hours since the Gauntlet has started, and I want to take a closer look at the builds of the people at the very top, who are still somehow managing to survive, unlike me and many thousands of others who have fallen during this brutal Gauntlet. There have been a lot of deaths, even including at some of the very top of the ladder, and I will definitely be covering those on this channel, but that is not what this video is about. As you can see, the top of the ladder seems to be actually surprisingly diverse. The only ascendancy that is significantly overrepresented is Juggernaut, which should come to no one's surprise. It's also by far the most popular among the people who got to maps, as it has been recommended by many content creators, myself included, as the easiest build to try out the Gauntlet with. Juggernaut is just way more forgiving than the other ascendancies, and this level 70 plus distribution chart just shows it way better than my words ever could. After Exile's Witch died at rank 1 this morning, the lead was taken by someone who should need no introduction if you are watching a Gauntlet video. Ben is playing the same build as Nick was, and now he is also taking his position at the current rank 1. Rank 2 is Havoc, who has been a big name in the racing scene for a long time, but he hasn't been as active in the recent Gauntlet. Whether it was due to lack of time or interest, but he seems to be popping off this Gauntlet with his own spin on Juggernaut Bone Shatter, building more defense than others, but managing to still progress very fast due to his pure efficiency. The most surprising thing for me when doing research for this video was looking at rank 3. It's a name I've never seen and I don't recognize. NN313 on his Guardian SRS is doing really well, and I hope he can continue this up, because it's always nice to see new faces in Gauntlet doing amazing. With all that said, it is important to keep in mind that all these standings are extremely temporary, and they are just based on pure experience, which a lot of people aren't currently focusing on. So just looking at the ladder is not the best way to judge how the Gauntlet is going to unfold. I want to take a closer look at each class now, seeing what builds people are playing, and the differences in how they build them. There really isn't much variety amongst the witch builds. Most people are rocking a very similar volatile dead of seating setup. If you want to take a closer look, I would recommend checking out Ben's character, as he is the one who is the most progressed currently. The one guy that actually deviates from the similarity is Soul 1027, who is currently ranked 2 alive witch. While everyone else is rocking a Barkskin setup from the Warden sub-ascendancy, he is using charms that increase the effect of his offerings, actually bringing up his block to 75-75, compared to, for example, Ben, who is only around 50-50 block. I actually quite like this setup, and it probably makes his mapping significantly safer, even if it makes him slightly more susceptible towards one-shots. If you wanted to try out this build, I would recommend substituting Volatile Dead of Seating with Detonate Dead of Chain Reaction, as it would just straight up be a damage upgrade, and I assume everyone else would be playing it right now, if it wasn't banned in Gauntlet. Worth mentioning that Terrence is currently playing a slightly different version of the build, where he uses Cremation of Exhuming, which basically trades damage and speed to have a better playstyle that allows for more dodging. I'm personally not a big fan of that skill for mapping, but hey, it's working out well for Terrence. At the top of Marauder is just all Bone Zone. Most of Juggernauts seem to be preferring Complex Trauma over normal Bone Shatter, as it does more damage while mapping, and that is pretty much the focus of everyone right now. The one person I want to highlight is at the very top. Havoc is running a different skill tree compared to others. While everyone else does the usual Juggernaut Bone Shadow pathing to precise technique, Havoc has decided to stay RT and travel upwards to pick up Divine Shield, helping him mitigate degens a little better, but mainly Sanctum of Toad, that provides mitigation against crit damage from blue Affliction Wisps, and the Armor Yes Mastery to mitigate the Fists as extra Chaos mode present on red maps in Gauntlet. I'm a little surprised we don't see any Chieftains up here, but I guess they just can't compete with the pure progression speed of Bone Shatter. We're keeping a lookout for them as the Gauntlet progresses though. Unlike the Marauder ladder, the Templar one is actually very diverse even at the top. We do see a lot of Minion Guardian builds, but even amongst them there is a big split between SRS and Blink and Mirror Arrow. Amongst the sea of Guardians we can spot a few Totem enjoyers, using Ball Lightning of Static. And there even used to be one RF plus Fire Trap Inquisitor, who unfortunately died very recently, which is a big tragedy, because his character was looking kinda nice, especially after finding an early Aegis Aurora, but even that wasn't enough to keep him alive. Because NN313 piqued my interest, I decided to do a little spying on his profile. And before the gauntlet started, he was testing Stormbrand of Indecision on Inquisitor in Standard. Now I really want to see him do well, because I would love to see that build tackle the gauntlet bosses. Continuing with the diversity, Duelist seems to have even more options. Rank 1 is the now classic Bone Shader Karn Slayer, with a few other Bone Zone Endurers doing quite well. But we can also see stuff like Champion Spitting Steel. Rare side nowadays are Slam Enjoyers, but somehow we can see both Earthquake and Earthshudder keeping up this gauntlet. In the battle of axes versus bows, the latter is represented by Champion Toxic Rain, Champion Summoners using Mirror Arrow, and even some totem builds with Artillery Ballista and Explosive Arrow Ballistas. Going from the most diversity to almost none. Ranger is just mostly Toxic Rain. Thankfully, they are, or in some cases were, a few people trying out all damage can poison tincture builds with Caustic Arrow of Poison and Scourge Arrow of Menace respectively. Somehow, there's one guy that managed to hack GGG servers and log into an old patch, because he's doing well on Poisonous Concoction, despite the community basically abandoning the skill outside of leveling after the latest nerf a few patches ago. The way I look at Scion is just a list of psychos that decide to play worse versions of builds that we have already talked about. I expect the Scion ladder to be very competitive towards the end of the gauntlet, and people that farmed on other classes end up rerolling it. I'm really looking forward to what people can cook up on Scion, as this class is by default extremely versatile. Last, but definitely not least, I will be covering Shadow, which was the one class where I really wasn't sure what people would actually play before the gauntlet started. And honestly, the latter reflects that quite well. You can see a solid mix of Trickster and Saboteur, using 3 different kind of traps and 5 different self-cast spells. And that is why I want to take a closer look at the builds of the people at the very top of the Shadow ladder, because I think they are very interesting. As is tradition, it wouldn't be a gauntlet without Junkron playing some original build that no one else has bothered with for the rest of the league. This time around, it's working out quite well for him, and his Frostbolt Ice Nova Trickster is currently rank 1 Shadow. Despite his very defensive skill tree, assuming being able to cast his build does around 2 million DPS, which is very high for this stage of the gauntlet. For his offensive setup, he is utilizing a Lucky Bitter Dream drop, which is about 30% more damage than a regular 6-ing would be, if my calculations are correct without making any other changes to his character. What is even more impressive is that somehow he managed to make Hybrid Trickster look tanky. The combined life and ES pool of 8000, that is enabled by Mind Over Matter with Eldritch Battery, 30k armor, 50k evasion, makes this build one of the tankiest early game Tricksters I have ever seen. The increased armor from Barskin really fixes a lot of issues that Tricksters usually have to face, and it's allowing him to survive. His goal is to eventually respec CI once he gets enough gear, and that's really where Tricksters start shining. The build also looks very fun to play, and if you haven't checked it out, I recommend checking his stream. The rank 2 Shadow, Myclos, is also playing a Trickster, using Explosive Trap of Shrapnel. If POB is to be trusted, his damage is also very high, around 1.7 mil, but unlike Junkron, he is actually quite squishy, especially against physical damage. I am just very impressed that he is managing to stay alive. The main reason why I find this build interesting though, is how much power he actually gets from Oath of the Magi. This man has sacrificed 12 of his sockets, and left his gloves, helmet, and boots empty to get 25% increased life, 50% elemental resistance, and 30% additional move speed. I'm really interested to see how far this man actually makes it in this gauntlet. With this physical mitigation, he will have to continue playing like a god for the next 8 days, and I just wish him the very best. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video format, and what would you like to see in the future as the gauntlet continues. Would you prefer me doing brief look over and commentary what everyone is doing, or take a closer look at some builds that pique my interest, or your guys' interest? If there is any build in specific that you want me to cover, just mention so in the comments, and I might take a closer look at it. That is gonna be it for this video though, but expect more videos coming up very soon, hopefully today, with RIP compilations and analysis. Please subscribe to this channel and like the video if you are enjoying the content. Much love, bye bye.